Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You know, guys, there are moments in TV history when your favorite character does something and it just leaves you flabbergasted. And one of these moments I want to highlight is Vegeta. When I already made a video regarding the case for Majin Vegeta, but I stumbled upon Vegeta's speech to Goku at the World Tournament of Martial Arts when Supreme Kai and Gohan was there, and it stuck with me. And I sat down for a couple of hours, for at least 2 to 3 hours, sitting down and analyzing what every single thing that Vegeta said, and why did he say it, and why did Goku look at him this way, and why did Supreme Kai do this, and why did Gohan say this. And all of this, it made me realize that I need to bring you guys a psychological analysis from Majin Vegeta. And I could go on for hours and hours and hours and hours. I could make 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 videos if you guys want. Just let me know in the comments below, because I'm more than happy to do this. This scene has stuck with me for probably 15 years. It is really an amazing scene, and you know, guys, there are moments in DragonBallZ that really sear themselves into your memory. Moments of incredible power, shocking transformations, and moments of profound, terrifying darkness. And this is a moment that we should not be proud of for Vegeta. As our favorite character, we should not be proud of him embracing Majin, but we should be proud that even though he was able to be controlled by Babidi, he decided that he will still remain in control over his own actions. This is what's incredible, guys. But perhaps none of the events are more chilling and more complex. I really want to highlight the word complex, because it is very easy to dismiss that what Vegeta did was just a temper tantrum, like a lot of people like to say. But no, it is more complex than this. Vegeta, the prince of all Saiyans, guys, who refuses to work with anyone, willingly embraced evil, massacred innocents, and turned to Goku, his eternal rival, with eyes just burning with fury, with rage, and not just with his Majin power, but with years of torment, declaring that Goku, that he has a debt, and that debt must be paid. Why did he decide to let himself become like Dabura? Why did he want to let himself be controlled by Babidi? Why this horrific act? And why destroy a lifetime of pride, of refusing to work with others, of finding your own way of becoming powerful? And why aim this lifetime of quarrels with Goku, the man who, despite their own rivalry, this very same man saved them multiple times, saved his life. And perhaps, and just perhaps, the most baffling questions of all is, why does Goku, the paragon of good, decide to just stand there and listen to Majin Vegeta during his speech at the World Martial Arts Tournament, and listen and seemingly understand that he needs to fight? He needs to fight even though there's a bigger threat at hand, being Majin Buu. That goes against everything that makes Goku and everything we learned about Goku. Goku sacrifices himself. He's selfless. He puts others before himself. He wants to save the world. He's just a goofy, funny, good man. And he decides to just sit there and say with a straight face, I understand, Vegeta. We need to fight. But to truly grasp this pivotal and tragic moment that happened to Vegeta, we need to look beyond power levels. And I know, guys, this is very different than what we're used to in DragonBallZ, but we need to look into the fractured psyche of the prince himself, and we can only do this through the lens of psychology. And our very first point, we'll have to delve into what drove Vegeta into this abyss. What made Vegeta accept Babidi's magic and the unbearable weight of what we call accumulated humiliation and the desperate demand for a psychic reckoning. So these are all fancy terms in psychology that you might ask yourself, what does this mean? What does this mean? These are all fancy words. Thought this was a DragonBallZ video. Thought this was a Case 4 video. Well, listen to me and stick with me. When someone with a powerful and often fragile sense of self-importance, like let's say in our case, the prince of the strongest warrior race, experiences profound failure, subjugation, or relies on someone they seem inferior, like the clown Kakarot. It doesn't just sting, guys. It feels like it's an existential threat. And it just might feel like every breath Kakarot takes is an insult to Vegeta. And this reaction that Vegeta takes isn't just sadness or anger. It can be often be in individuals intense rage, shame, and a burning need to restore the wounded self that he once knew. And sometimes he needs to do this through drastic and aggressive means. And then you have to couple this with accumulated frustration and the constant, repeated blocking of a primary life goal. And this is how you create the most eruptible psychological powder keg. So imagine a king that is born to rule, a legendary lineage, immense pride, and suddenly his kingdom is conquered. He's forced into humiliating servitude under a tyrant who mocks his heritage. He escapes. He seeks to reclaim his honor, but he only finds that his efforts are constantly eclipsed by a peasant or by a clown. The peasant hero that decides that he's able to save the king, in our case it's the clown Kakarot, and doesn't save him as an equal, but with a perceived pity that feels like he's been treated as a worthless child. Each blow, the lost kingdom, the servitude, the overshadowing, the humiliating salvation, is just a deep cut that into his psyche, into his being, and into his existence. The king doesn't just feel frustrated, he feels wronged, and he feels like he's diminished at his very core. He develops a burning obsession, not just to regain his status, but to erase from history the peasant hero who has become the living symbol of all his failures and humiliations. He feels that a debt is owed to him, and this debt will only be payable by proving absolute dominance over the source of his deepest shame. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is Vegeta. And I want you to listen to his own words in the World Martial Arts Tournament. It is a chilling monologue, but it is a monologue where every single word means so much. I could spend a 5-hour video dissecting everything he says and explaining it away. So he says, spend your life, rule by another. And guys, this is the injury of living under Frieza's boot on the neck of Saiyan royalty. And this is a constant reminder that he was powerless to stop Frieza, and Goku was the one who saved him, not him. He was actually killed by Frieza, and he had to be saved by Goku. Watch your race dwindle to a handful. And this is probably the biggest trauma for Vegeta. It carries on even to Super and even to Daima. This is the weight of a legacy he feels that he needs to uphold, and that he needs to uphold, especially when you compare him to the clown being Kakarot. And then he says that he lives in the shadow of Goku, the relentless, and this is just a reminder of the relentless and grinding humiliation of being the second best when he's the prince to only a low-class clown. Every step, every breath Goku takes felt like a direct invalidation of Vegeta's own effort and birthright. He then says, he even saved my life as if I was a worthless child. helpless child. And this is the deepest cut. For Vegeta, pride is his whole existence. Being saved by his rival isn't an act of kindness. It's the ultimate confirmation of inferiority, and it is a shame that is so profound that it burns like acid. So I want you to reflect on all of these, and I want you to see, and I want you to tell me how these aren't big grievances for Vegeta, but there's a nuance there. These grievances are not separate. They've compounded over the years. It's like interest. You have $100, then you have 3.5%, you have 3% every year, $103, and then you have 3% of 103, and then you have a 3% on this. So it compounds and you make money on money. And this is the same thing. This has been compounded over the years. It has been festering and becoming intrinsically linked to his mind, and it's part of his psyche. And who stands at the center of it all? The living embodiment of everything Vegeta feels he lacks, the symbol of his failures, the direct source of his most stinging humiliation. It is the one and only Goku. That's why the debt falls on Goku. That's why he's the only one that can repay this debt. And it's also because Goku is the benchmark, the rival, the savior whose very, very existence constantly reminds Vegeta of his shortcomings. This debt isn't just about the fight that they should have had and they never had. It is the accumulated psyche and the weight of all these injuries inflicted upon Vegeta. And why does this debt have to be paid? Why can't just Vegeta let go? And why, more importantly, does this debt have to be paid by killing Goku? And this is because for Vegeta, he's trapped in this spiral of pride, and his pride is wounded, and he has so much rage that a simple victory, it's not enough. It's not enough to beat Kakarot. He always says when he comes and saved Goku against the androids, against another foe, he says, I'm the one who's going to kill Goku, no one else. And this humiliation that he has runs too deep. He needs to eradicate the source of this pain from existence and from Earth. Killing Goku in his sick and tormented mind is the only way to restore his shattered pride absolutely, to destroy the living evidence of his past weaknesses and their shame, assert ultimate control after a life of feeling powerless and second best to Goku, to Bulma, to everyone, to Cell, to Gohan, and to silence the internal voice whispering that he's only second best and sometimes even third best behind Gohan, and to finally fulfill the interpretation of his Saiyan destiny. It's a demand, guys, for psychic annihilation, and the only currency he believes can settle this crushing internal debt is the killing of Goku. And guys, you might accept, now that you've explained all of this, why does Goku just stand there and decide to accept? It's not because he condones Vegeta, even though it goes against everything we've seen, guys, about Goku. This is what's insane. Goku never would have done this for anyone else other than Vegeta. And it's not because he condones Vegeta's evil. It's not because he condones the killing of all those innocent people. It's a moment that is grim, and it's a moment of terrible empathy. Goku is the only one who's able to hear the pain beneath the rage. He recognizes the truth. Their ultimate battle, the one Vegeta has craved for so long as his defining measure of his existence, has been perpetually sidelined. For so long, it has been put to the side. Threats after threats after threats, and Vegeta said no more. And Goku saw this. He saw Vegeta's core need, the validation he seeks through his rivalry, has been ignored for too long, pushed aside by crisis and crisis, even by Goku's own choices, and he knows this. And who else understands this? You can see in the clip that Gohan first says, why does this matter to you, Vegeta? And Vegeta says, and to a clown it doesn't matter, but to a warrior it matters greatly. And then Supreme Kai says, what's wrong with you people and your meaningless squabble? And then Vegeta snaps. So you can see two people that are there not understanding him. And then after he finishes his monologue, Supreme Kai, the deity, Gohan, the son of the clown, all turn around to Goku, looking at him as a sign of understanding that, hey, Vegeta might be onto something. You've done way too much. What did you do, Goku, to him? And they both know how Majin Buu is a threat. And for that moment, Supreme Kai and Gohan turned to Goku and understood Vegeta. And not only them, but Goku understands that Vegeta has finally reached a point where he believes the only way to make his need heard and the only way to force the universe and Goku to acknowledge it is through this extreme and destructive act of accepting Babidi, killing those people at the Tournament of Power, and right here, right now, in front of him, he will have to fight him. Agreeing to this fight is partly pragmatic, guys, because it stops the killing for now, and it contains the immediate threat, which is Majin Vegeta, but it is also, and more importantly, Goku acknowledging the gravity and saying non-verbally, I see how much this means to you. I see how long you've waited and how far you've gone because you felt ignored and you've made this unavoidable. It is a tragic, and this is a tragic acceptance of the Saiyan imperative for confrontation. Meeting his rival is the only language Vegeta is willing to accept and willing to understand now. So when you look at Majin Vegeta through these lenses, we see more than a villain's power-up. We see more than a childish tantrum. It is the tragic eruption of years of accumulated humiliation, a prince drowning in inferiority, desperately trying to reclaim his shattered pride through the only means he feels are left. And this is the horror of confronting Goku, of killing those people. And it allows him, and it allows us to see the tormented soul beneath the M logo on his forehead. And perhaps, and just perhaps, we'll be able from now on to sympathize with this impossible weight that finally broke the almighty Prince of all Saiyans. Now, building directly on the foundation we built on the wounded pride and the psychological debt he has, let's examine the second critical point that I've wanted to talk to you guys, because we've seen why Vegeta felt this crushing need to settle the score, specifically with Goku. But there's another critical layer to this breakdown that is tightly coupled with the first, and is the agonizing, repeated denial of the confrontation that Vegeta was owed. It is not just who he wanted to fight, but it is the fact that he was never allowed to have his fight on his own term. Think about it. What was Vegeta's singular driving obsession about Frieza? After losing everything, after nearly dying, it was to prove his superiority to Goku in combat. Just once he needed this. And it wasn't just a whim. It was at the core for him to reclaim his identity. It is the validation he craved and needed. And yet, time and time again, the universe seems to conspire against him. And he said, enough of this. Enough of this. Put yourself into his shoes, guys. Put yourself into his shoes. How many times, if you've waited for years for something that is at your core, the universe, your friends, your parents, everyone conspires against you to say, no, no, no. When are you going to break down and say, that's enough? I'm putting my foot down. When? How much is too much for someone to finally say, I can understand him? Everyone refused to say, okay, Vegeta, now we can. Now we can. Now we can. Okay, this. It was no, 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 no. So he said, I'm done with this. I'm done, and this will happen regardless of what anyone thinks. I will one-man army this shit. So this brings us to our second psychological principle. It is called the frustration aggression principle. And simply put, guys, when you're consistently blocked from achieving a deeply important goal, as we've seen and as we know, frustration builds. And that frustration is like steam in a sealed pot. It will inevitably seek release, and often through aggression. And this aggression might not even be aimed at someone specific, or not even his original source. It can often be displaced, and it can explode like a volcano outwards in a seemingly disproportionate way. This is why when Bulma didn't understand why Vegeta killed all those people, it was designed to simply break through the obstacle or vent the unbearable pressure. And this is tied to our fundamental need for control, for agency. When external forces reclaim and deny your deepest objective, it is a violation of your own self, and it is a push, and this will push you to reclaim control by any means necessary. And this is why Vegeta's journey through DragonBallZ, amplified to a Saiyan scale, amplified to the fact he's a prince, is more understandable now. And I want you guys to trace back a timeline of these interruptions, because this is not an exhaustive list. There's way more interruptions than this, but I will go through the most important ones. Namek, he wants to surpass Goku, who beats him to the Super Saiyan transformation race and beats Frieza and saves Vegeta. But Frieza is the immediate threat, so the goal is postponed. Android Saga arrives. Trunks comes. Even he becomes Super Saiyan. He warns everyone, and then the prince regains his throne, and only when he says, I will not chase Kakarot anymore. No more. And we can see it in my great art that I have here when Vegeta finally transformed to Super Saiyan. You can see it as a surprise, and as finally the prince has regained his throne, and for those 20 minutes Vegeta is the strongest character in the universe. But then what? Heart virus for Goku, and Cell arrives and Vegeta fails, and each time a new apocalypse demands attention, sidelining his personal war, even training with his own foe to prep for Cell, and the goal is postponed again. And then you have 7 years of peace where Goku is dead and Vegeta pushes himself relentlessly, reaches Super Saiyan 2, and Goku returns for 1 day. Finally the chance, guys. He enters the World Martial Arts Tournament specifically for this showdown, and then Majin Buu appears, and then Supreme Kai appears, and then Gohan appears, and they all say, no, we're gonna fight Vegeta, we're gonna fight Buu. Fuck what you think, we're not gonna do this. And you can feel Vegeta's impatience just growing and growing throughout the series. He cooperates against those galactic threats, but always grudgingly, always with the underlying resentment that this fight isn't the fight he truly wants. It is just a temporary fight. And then comes the breaking point. Supreme Kai starts the proceedings, declaring that they must pursue Babidi to prevent Buu's revival. And in that moment, a deity in Supreme Kai tells Vegeta straight up, your life's obsession in the fight you've waited years for does not matter yet again. And is the ultimate dismissal that yet again, when Goku comes back, he is dismissed. A god tells him, you're not important. What are you supposed to do? It is the ultimate dismissal. So this is the final confirmation for Vegeta that literally the universe, fate, and everyone will always prioritize something else over his defining purpose. And this is where the frustration, aggression principle just detonates and explodes. Years of blocked goals years of resentment that just boil over. And then Babadi's Majin power, it's just there. It's right there. And then if this side has dismissed you, but this side offers you something greater, he accepts. And it isn't just tempting for its strength. It offers a way to finally shatter the obstacles that he had, this niceness of him that he had, this good inside of his heart that he had. He said, enough of this. I need him to wake up the evil in my heart, to finally say and push to those boundaries and force Goku to fight. And by embracing that power, he consciously chose to unleash his dark side, while boasting that he remained in control. This is what makes Vegeta great, even as Majin. When Vegeta isn't just getting stronger, guys, and I want you to understand, he is aggressively reclaiming control of the narrative. Murdering those innocent spectators serves as a cold, calculated, psychological purpose born directly from this volcanic frustration. What does it do, guys? It forces Goku's hand. This is the most efficient way to do it. By committing an undeniable atrocity, because Vegeta knows Goku more than anyone else, it makes it impossible for Goku to prioritize Buu or anything else. It creates an immediate crisis so severe that Goku must fight him right here, right now, to stop the killing. And he removes Buu as the obstacle. It is Vegeta now becoming the more immediate and terrifying threat. And it is a violent scream that is our years of pent-up frustration that finally erupted. It is Vegeta roaring against the whole universe, roaring against Supreme Kai, against Gohan, who was stronger than him, against Goku, and that constantly denied him his due. Everyone's due is put first, except for his. He essentially is shouting, "You want to ignore my fight? Fine, I'll make you a scene you cannot ignore. I will force a confrontation you have been kept trying to prevent." And when he turns to Goku, he says, "You know this as well as I do, Kakarot, that in a day you will be back from the dead, and I will not waste this opportunity." And this isn't villain talk. This is not Babidi speaking. It is the sound of finally the dam broke, and it's years of thwarted desire that is weaponized for his own benefit. He's hijacking fate, hijacking the hero's journey, and forcing the climax that circumstance and Kakarot's own nature kept denying him. It is a dark and destructive path, born from the eruption of a frustration that had been simmering for far, far, far too long. We see a warrior pushed and beyond endurance, finally resorting to the only language all humans and Saiyan knows, and the only language that he feels the universe respects anymore: overwhelming and undeniable, terrifying force. So we've explored the deep wounds of Vegeta's pride and the explosive frustrations from years of being put on the sideline. But to fully understand the heartbreaking choice of becoming a Majin, we need to dive even deeper. We need to go to the next layer, just like Inception, into the core psychological needs that drive every single one of us, you guys. And our third point is going to examine Majin Vegeta through the powerful lens of something we call the self-determination theory. And this theory explains that every person has three critical, innate psychological needs: autonomy, the feeling that you control your own life and choices, that you're the author of your own actions, basically freedom; competence, the belief that you're skilled, effective, and capable in areas that are meaningful to you, and it's a feeling of mastery, feeling like you know something, that you're good at something. And lastly, a feeling of relatedness, that you are connected to, cared for, and genuinely understood by others. And according to this theory, guys, if any of these fundamental needs are severely unmet or threatened over time, individuals will experience intense psychological turmoil, and this can lead to them take extreme actions, even seemingly irrational or even harmful to oneself or to others. And this is a desperate attempt to restore balance and protect their sense of self and fulfill those starved needs that we all need to have fulfilled. And guys, this is precisely what happened to Vegeta. After settling down on Earth during those 7 years of peace, Vegeta felt increasingly trapped by a life he had not fully chosen. A life that felt alien to his core, to his warrior core, to his Saiyan core, and his sense of autonomy, his freedom, his control over his own path was slipping away, and he felt like a domesticated dog. He admitted as much in his raw confession to Goku, and I quote, he said, "I woke up one day to find that I had settled down, formed a family. I had even grown quite fond of them. Would you believe I almost started to think the earth was a nice place to live? Do you understand now, Kakarot? That's why I needed Babidi. That's why I needed Babidi to set me free by releasing the evil in my heart." And this is one of the deepest and the coldest lines of all TV history. He saw Babidi's power not just as strength, but as a key to unlock the cage of peace, to reclaim his autonomy, and as the ruthless warrior he used to be. But Vegeta's torment ran way deeper than this. His fundamental need for competence was intrinsically tied to being the elite Saiyan prince that he was, and this was severely wounded by being repeatedly surpassed by Goku, saved by Goku, living in his shadow, and it made Vegeta feeling inadequate, ineffective, and robbed of the very essence of his being. Strength and dominance erased, and he painfully revealed this insecurity to each one of us, guys. Because listen to what he said. "Every breath you take is an insult to my honor, Kakarot. Do you know how much it hurts that you have surpassed me in every way?" Majin Vegeta wasn't becoming a weak version of Vegeta or a villain version of Vegeta. From the perspective of the self-determination theory, it was Vegeta who was desperate, and he was tragically attempting to fulfill his fundamental psychological needs that we all have. He embraced Babidi's darkness because it represented the only path he could see at the moment to finally and violently reclaim his lost autonomy and desperately restore his shattered sense of competence that he had lost over the years. So if we see it through these lenses, Vegeta's decision becomes deeply and painfully human and more understandable. He was a proud warrior, fighting not just against Goku, but against the unbearable psychological anguish of losing who he fundamentally believed himself to be when his core needs felt utterly denied. So, when we peel back the layers and the crushing weight of humiliation detailed in his own words, being the injury that he felt to his psychic, the endless frustration of a goal being denied, our frustration, aggression, and a desperate cry for autonomy and competence laid bare by the self-determination theory that explained it away. Now Majin Vegeta ceases to be just a pawn of evil or a simple villain. He becomes a mirror reflecting the extreme lengths that a soul will go to reclaim a shattered sense of core, a shattered sense of self, when its core psychological needs are violated. His choices, as horrific as they were and as bad as the consequences were, transforms from being a pure malice into something that we tragically understand, and it is a violent eruption against the unbearable pain of feeling powerless, inferior, and perpetually ignored. It was a desperate gambit to heal a deep wound and forcibly assert his agency upon a universe that seemed to constantly conspire and deny him. And the chilling question I have for you guys is, was he the master of his destiny, or was he still chained under Babidi's control? I believe that in that ferocious moment, he was the undeniable master. He wasn't Babidi's puppet. He twisted the dark gift to his own ends. He seized control of the narrative and that had so long eluded him, and violently and finally satisfied those psychological needs for autonomy and competence. He achieved the dark freedom he thought he craved for so long, the dominance he felt he was owed, and he was finally free to be ruthless and to be the powerful prince he believed he needed to be, answering to no one but to his own resurrected pride. Yet perhaps, standing in the ashes of that dark victory, having forcibly taken what fate and Kakarot denied for so long, that's when the true realization began to dawn on him. The mastery was undeniable in that instant, that the freedom was absolute by his own brutal definition. But, and just but, was the monster he unleashed truly the self he ultimately wanted? Was this kind of destructive strength the only strength that mattered? The freedom was real. It really was, guys. It was achieved on his own terms. But maybe the very taste of it left a bittersweet taste on his mouth, and at the horrific cost was the unexpected catalyst and the grim lesson Vegeta needed to finally understand why that path, that specific form of mastery, could never truly satisfy him, the complex warrior, the father, the man he was finally becoming.